Hello, everyone. Today is January 21st, 2022. My guest today is Victor Nzeata. Victor is the founder of Cyber Brain Academy, a professor at the University of San Diego, and an Army Reserves captain. Thanks for coming on the podcast, Victor.
Of course. Thanks for having me on the podcast. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. So you were not born in America. You are an immigrant of Nigeria, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. I was actually born in Nigeria. I was born in a small village in Nigeria, and I came to the United States when I was about almost 7 years old. It was in 1999 when I immigrated to the United States. So that's correct. I was born in Nigeria, and yeah, being an immigrant, we saw like a lot of unique challenges. But I really appreciate the opportunities that the United States provides to my family, especially for education. But yeah, like being an immigrant gave me a unique perspective on business and really just like a lifestyle altogether.
What types of unique perspectives do you think you gained?
I definitely gained an appreciation for hard work because when we came to America, my family and I, we lived in a small apartment in Gary, Indiana. So it was a one-bedroom apartment, four of us. And not to do like a sob story here, but I never slept in my own bed until I was like 12 years old. I always shared a bed with my mom, my brother, because all three of us were bed growing up because we grew up, pretty much homeless for 2 years. So to see that and then see my mom get her bachelor's, to see my family, progress through life, it really kind of shows me that you can't get the rewards without the sacrifice. So being an immigrant, definitely helps you see that through through a material process from, going from an apartment to a house, from a, beat up car to a nicer car. So seeing that progress through life and knowing that the result of it or the key component has always been hard work, it really resonates that you can't really slack off in life, especially if you want to get what you want out of life.
Wow, that is a pretty amazing thing to recognize throughout your childhood.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I was very fortunate to have struggled, I guess, through life to really appreciate and see the opportunities that await people once they really kind of, really work hard and go towards those like fears that they have.
Absolutely. I'm a child of immigrants. My parents immigrated before I was born, so and they speak about those struggles, when they were first here for a few years, but I never actually was able to see them the way that you did and were able to recognize that.
Yeah, I mean, it was always, during the process, it feels like a forever process. It feels like you're always gonna be stuck in that moment, and then one thing happens. Like for example, my mom passing her nursing exam, and then my brother going to college, and then me going to college. Like just little progresses through life, like just little milestones. You look back and you see how far you've came by just focusing on one little step at a time. So yeah.
Absolutely. That's yeah, that's great. Those small milestones. What about your Nigerian heritage do you think really resonates with you and you're able to bring here to the United States?
I think it was really the challenge that I had. I had a very unique experience when I was about 5 years old. Um, I was in school. I was in grade school, and but back there we call it like a primary school. It's a very like UK focused country, and my teacher one day, it's probably my favorite day of class. So I remember walking to class. So we walked to school, about like probably a mile and a half, 2 miles to school. And I was in class and we were talking about computers. And it was great timing because the day before I saw my first remote. So I was like, man, I'm seeing technology, like learning a little bit about it. So he drew a computer on the chalkboard. And all I remember from the class was he had a monitor, keyboard, CPU, and then he said these are the three components of three components of a computer. And I remembered like those three words: monitor, keyboard, CPU. I had no idea what it meant, but I remember I was intrigued by it. And what I liked about it was just like, man, this is really interesting because it was almost like magical, because it exists, but you haven't seen it yet. And everyone's seen it but you, and it's out there, but you have a lot of belief in it, but physically you've never seen it. But he ended the class saying, well, unfortunately, most of you will never see this in your life. Because a lot of people there, we're really poor and we never saw technology in our lives up to this point. So what are the odds of us seeing it in the future? And this is back in this is probably back in like 1999 or 1998 time. So I remember going back home, like kind of down and depressed, like, man, I mean, he was right. You're going back to, your small village, you're not really exposed to technology. And then you magically win the immigration lottery. You come to America like 2 months later, and then you go to your uncle's house, your uncle's apartment, and right in front of you is a computer. And seeing that, within a few months as a child, you kind of start challenging what people tell you. Like, how do you know this for my future? Like, how do you really determine what's going to happen in the future, especially with technology? Technology advances so fast and at a scale where it's more affordable for the regular consumer. And to see a computer in real life, you just know that it's the same time period, just different location. So really, like, how fortunate you are and what you're exposed to is just based off where you're born in geography. And in reality, these kids growing up without technology, it's not their fault. They just they grew up in the wrong part of the world. And for me to see that these opportunities are out there, I just want to tell everybody about, like, man, really, like, all we got to do is get these computers out to these kids just to let them know that that teacher was wrong when he said you never see this, just to give them that hope. Because you can't let someone decide your destiny for you, especially when you trust that person. So you want to believe it. And then, if I was to believe that, I would have grew up my whole life thinking technology is not for me, and I would have probably, never ran towards it. But I'm fortunate to have went through that experience because I feel as though, because I saw that he was wrong, I kind of challenged myself more to say, well, here I am. Now I'm out of where I thought I would be in my life. Now I can explore further. So that was a unique experience in Nigeria that really kind of drew me towards technology. But I'm really glad it happened, and I love telling that story to people because it tells you that never give up and don't let someone else tell you where your dream should be. You should be the one to decide what your destiny should be.
No, that's pretty incredible. And it's hard to take that in, say, okay, he said, he or she said, this, that I can't do this, but then still be able to continue. And then eventually, once you do get the opportunity, capitalizing on that opportunity is very big.
Yeah, especially as a child, when you can see that as a child, it stays with you throughout your whole life.
Absolutely. And it's not easy to recognize. I mean, because like you said, first growing up in a village where you have to walk 1.5 to 2 miles every day.
Right.
And then you're not, we who are born and raised in America, we take these computers very much for granted. Like, a lot of us had a computer in the house before we were 10 years old. A lot of us, every single day we would go into a classroom, there would be a computer somewhere, and you don't realize, like, there are other places in the world where people struggle using a mouse and a keyboard because it's not like us where we use these two things, screen, mouse, keyboard, CPU, the keyboard monitor, like your professor said, every day. When you use it every day, then it's like, okay, it's there. And it's an amazing tool. People, they like to say a lot of, technology is consuming us or whatnot, but in the end of the day, it's really helping us out a lot.
Absolutely. And the best part about it, in my opinion, is education. Technology
Yes.
opens up education because as a kid growing up in Nigeria, I was told from birth, education is your best friend. You're gonna go to college. There's never a plan B, for my family. And fortunately, my brother's a doctor at Harvard,
Wow.
and my whole family, is very educated. So we take education very seriously. But to mix education, our passion for education, with online schooling, we can really hit a lot of countries. For example, I created a CSSP course a few years ago, and we had over 900 students, and a lot of students were from Nigeria. And I
Wow.
thought it was a crazy, turn of events for that to happen, especially over a few years of just grinding out, creating a course that we think can help a lot of people. But yeah, so just to make it affordable, make it online, you can change a lot of lives because those certifications help people get jobs, help people feed their families. So you make a lot of impact by just making a resource more available and more affordable.
Yes, and you said it already, making that resource just easily available. It's, and to bring that to an international market, it's like we here in America, again, we have these computers, we kind of get these cybersecurity tips because we work in offices where it's obvious. But for a lot of people abroad, they don't get these very obvious tips like, you should do this with your passwords or you should do this. So to have a resource available to them is very smart business plan by you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, because when I started my company, my scope was really my team, my small cyber team. So I was fortunate enough to be the Army's first cyber officer. So I went through like an 11-month cyber operations course in Fort Gordon, Georgia. And coming out of it as a reservist was a new experience for anybody. I was the first to ever go through it. And what I realized was I had so many companies hitting me up for jobs, hitting me up for interviews, and all I did was add 5 letters to my last name. I got a new certification, and that was what recruiters were looking for. And it's really because you check the HR boxes, and it's kind of the landscape of the cybersecurity field right now, where it doesn't matter how good you are in hacking and forensics, whatever skill set that you really do the time to really hone in on. If you don't have a governing party to certify you to say you are good to go, it's really just hearsay, because anyone can say that they can code, but someone who went through like a structured way of learning how to code and it's endorsed by a global standard, it's got to be a little bit more subjective towards the interviewer to say, well, we trust your word, but Harvard already endorsed this person. So the endorsement process is really what's really important. And that's what I saw coming from the military was that my resume was the same, but I got a new certification. But I really learned so much through the process of studying for the certification that I understand why I'm more in demand, because I acquired so many more skills through the learning process that the salary and the opportunities really does make sense, because these skills do take a long time to learn. And people who are knowledgeable in this skill set, they're being pulled due to all the demand for hackers. I mean, all the demand for ethical hackers, all the demand for people who understand hackers, who understand cybersecurity vulnerabilities, because businesses now need protection more than ever. Because back in the day, we didn't have such a surplus of hackers. We didn't have such a high availability of tools that anybody can pick up a laptop and now can hack Chase Bank, for example. So, and then we don't have YouTube videos where they break it down how to do it ethically. But then obviously, people take malicious, intent with it. And there's so many ways where we try to spread the knowledge of hacking and cyber and not make it seem malicious or deviant. And the best way to do that is to really show that these are great jobs to provide food for your family, to pay your bills. I've had students send me letters saying that they were teachers. He was a teacher with like 4 kids and had a hard time making ends meet. He went through my course, gone through cybersecurity, and now he's obviously instead of working 2 jobs, he can now work 1 job and be there for his family. So education can do that for people. And we make it online, anybody can have access to it. So having that opportunity, with the military, backing me in terms of giving me more certifications, more education, it really advances how much more impact I can make to the civilian world as well.
Absolutely. And for someone who wants to start in the cybersecurity realm, it's not very obvious where to start. It's not like you can just go onto YouTube, type cybersecurity, and then you're going to get the, all the answers to you. It's much, I think, easier for someone to absorb it when someone who's already gone through this process is, creates a sort of, the sort of plan or sort of curriculum, which makes, a sort of time sense. The introduction has already been thought out. Okay, what would a person who has no idea what cybersecurity is need to know? And then what would they need to know next? And then eventually within this certain time frame, which you can't teach everyone you can't teach a beginner everything in this limited amount of time. Right. So you have to also be reasonable about how much can this person digest within the amount of time we have. And for someone who's a novice, that's not obvious. And having a teacher there will make that much easier to actually learn. And if they want to become a hacker, maybe one day after they take several certifications, they actually could have the potential to do that. But to just say, I'm going to, start being a hacker and not have any sort of formal training, I think is nearly impossible.
Well, so I mean, it's possible to an extent, right? Because there are so many great websites out there like tryhackme.com where they'll break down how to hack from scratch to how to use Nmap, Metasploit. So they'll break down how to use these tools for you. So they'll teach you the basics. But you're absolutely right. The only issue with those courses that in my opinion, is that the answers are available online. So when you go to a hiring manager and you want to say you are a good hacker and you have all these certifications from like TryHackMe or these other vendors, if the answers are available online, you lose credibility because there's that slim chance, even it's a 1% chance that you Google the answers or whatnot. So they might not take it. And that's another issue I've seen with the military. A lot of times the military, me being included, we kind of drink the Kool-Aid thinking that every military course we take will transfer well into civilian life. And what I've seen from a lot of veterans is that in the civilian world, myself included, being a reservist, I get to see both, in parallel. What I've seen is that the civilian world, they don't really understand what those courses mean. If I say I went to a senior leaders course in the Army, you don't understand, what does that really mean, right? But if I said to CompTIA Security Plus in the Army, everyone knows CompTIA Security Plus, military and civilian included. So that speaks directly to civilians when you talk about the technical skills you're required, because all I have to do is go to CompTIA.com and see all the skills that they tested you on. So I can know you have a baseline knowledge on all of these topics. And the benefit of that too, if you have a team and all are CompTIA Security Plus certified, they all have the exact same baseline. Now, if each one of them self-taught themselves how to hack or how to do cybersecurity, some cybersecurity field, now they all are coming in with different baseline. One might be really advanced, but most likely a lot of them are kind of coming at a lower level because they don't have that teacher to show them structurally how the industry wants them to learn how to do their job. So that's the benefit of certifications. And honestly, is I've seen the military and the advantage of it. The military understands that. They understand what the issue is. That's why every soldier now, it's a process. It's a program that we're part of called Army Credential Assistance, where every soldier gets $4,000 towards IT certification classes and vouchers.
Wow.
So the advantage of that is Cyber Academy, we have over 40 IT certifications and vouchers listed in that program. So now the soldiers can take their learning to their own hands and now get quality training vouchers within their $4,000 every year. So when they leave the military, instead of getting these senior leaders courses, these Army's weapon courses, they don't really transfer to an IT position, for example, because I was in infantry for about 6 years of my career. And I love to shoot guns. I had a really good time, but it wouldn't really help me as a software engineer. It was more like a weekend hobby as a reservist. But whereas cyber directly helps me in my civilian career. So like that's the advantage of having that parallel life of being a service member and being a civilian, because I get to see really how both operate, and also I see the same issues, which is quality training. They both need people. The military is struggling to find people and then keep people in cybersecurity, whereas the civilian world is doing the exact same thing. They're bringing cybersecurity people, overloading them, and then they leave, or they bring cybersecurity people, underpay them, and then they leave. So there's always an issue try to find that good balance where you can get a really good staff. And the solution, in my opinion, is to really hire internally. There's so many advantages of hiring internally because all you have to do is teach them technical skills. So I've taught Security Plus where I've had people come into my class with no baseline knowledge of IT or cybersecurity, and within 2 weeks are now Security Plus certified, right? So if they come in with the baseline knowledge, and let's say they already work in the industry in another department that's already overloaded, well, now they can go into the IT or cybersecurity field as a junior or kind of shadow a senior or mid person. Because obviously you don't have the experience to come into the job directly, but they come in as a junior level position, they can definitely get the skills and experience. And the company saves time, risk, and money by hiring internally, paying for the training, and the person is most likely going to stay with the company longer because they're seeing opportunities that they wanted anyways. So that's kind of my solution to fix that problem. So that's kind of a rant and a rumble and a little rant, but hope I answered your question with that one.
No, you did. Yes. And going back to your point, it's important, like these certifications and this knowledge and communicating that you know this in a sort of way that the industry is going to recognize. You might want to say, oh, I kind of want to just learn it all online, and I'll have this knowledge. But then at the end of the day, we want to transfer that knowledge into making a good salary, because that matters, and that makes life a lot easier. And then if we have a good salary, then we can continue and move on from there. But like you said at the beginning, life's not easy, when you're sleeping in a bed with two or three other people, and you're
Mhm.
not making as much money as you need to live a comfortable life, or even as much as you see other people are making themselves, and you just want to make that too, is completely understandable. And these certifications almost certainly give people the opportunity, and they translate across the world.
Absolutely. That
These continue.
No, I'm sorry. That's the key benefit of it, and that's something that I am seeing a lot of with colleges. So a lot of colleges now are doing these cybersecurity boot camps where it's like summer training, about 8 to 20 weeks long, and they're very beneficial. They definitely bring someone in from zero knowledge to being ready for the Security Plus exam, for example. So there's definitely a lot of benefits to it. But you hit a really key point, which is global recognition, right? Because if for example, I teach at the University of San Diego. I went there for grad school. And if I was to go to France, for example, and I say I went to USD, they might not know where that school is. But if I say I have a ISACA certification, well, they know ISACA because ISACA has global partners. So there's that weight to the name, right? Where your degree might have weight, but it might might have a lot of local weight, where you might think that, your school that I've for example, my undergrad degree was in computer engineering for technology from Purdue University, and my very first job, no lie, my very first job, I could not start the job because I didn't have a Security Plus certification. They didn't ask me about my degree.
Wow.
And yeah, and I thought it was pretty significant because I thought after 4 years of being told a degree is what matters, a degree is what matters, here I am. And then the funny part about it was that actually graduated a semester later because I had to finish up my senior project. I had to finish up I wrote a application for an Android app, and I had to finish doing the comments on the code. So it took a little bit extra longer to finish that project. And during that whole semester, I technically haven't finished my bachelor's yet, even though I was working full time. But all they really cared about was the Security Plus certification to check the box. And the reason is because the client, being the U.S. Army at the time, wanted that. That was their requirement. So the U.S. Army required the certification more than the degree. And that's because of a regulation called the DoD 8140, previously called the DoD 8570. So what is directive does is it allows all government IT positions, anything that allows you to touch an IT equipment, it requires you to have a baseline certification like Security Plus or CND or some kind of baseline certification for that role. So I just mentioned the entry level roles. So there's more advanced like CI, SAM, CSSP, for example. So they scale each certification per work role that you need as a baseline requirement. No college degree requirement, just the certification requirements. So unbeknownst to me, when I started my job, was I could have done this job probably a little bit sooner, probably as an intern, with the Security Plus certification. So there's so many opportunities that I didn't know about because I didn't know about that in colleges, because colleges were always telling you that a degree is what matters. Well, in cybersecurity, colleges need to kind of weigh like 50-50, like you need a degree, but if you want any kind of government role, and here's the funny thing about it too, is like most people don't understand like how many roles are available. For example, I live in San Diego. The largest cybersecurity employer in San Diego is the U.S. Navy. So as a contractor, as a civilian, there's so many opportunities available right here in San Diego, but they all require a baseline certification. So if you're switching industries, that's the quickest way to go in because it doesn't require 4 years of schooling. You come in with the same baseline, you learn on the job, and honestly, it's the best way to kind of fill that skills gap that we're currently experiencing in the workforce.
Absolutely. And I think one thing that you've noted already, and I don't think we've directly said it, but I'm going to say it now, you mentioned that one of the great things about, computers and networking and the internet is online education. Institutions such as Cyber Brain Academy. The and you also mentioned how you came out of Purdue but still didn't have the skills necessary for your first job out of college. I felt the same way. I went to UCSD, University of California, San Diego, got a degree in engineering, and my first job was a systems engineering job, and I was not technically skilled for that job. And I think one of the big reasons is because those that schools don't really prepare us. They prepare us to learn, and they give us experiences, but they don't give us the direct technical skills that employers are looking for. And I think the big difference is, something from Cyber Brain Academy compared to Purdue University or UC San Diego is that those two institutions are very expensive and not very plausible for a lot of people, especially the international community, but even people within the United States. A lot of people, who need work can't go to Purdue or UC San Diego because it's too expensive, where obtaining a certification with Cyber Brain Academy would be give them a job much more directly in less time and would be much less expensive, just the education itself.
Absolutely, and that's exactly what it is. College is expensive, and given COVID-19, we really don't want to put anybody in the academic hardship right now. So absolutely, you're absolutely right about that. College for me, I was fortunate enough to do ROTC, so I had a majority of my college paid for. But yeah, an engineering degree from Purdue would definitely put me in the hole if it wasn't for the military to help me out. And honestly, like my personal experience with college was out of the 4 years that I was in college, I took probably one Java class because a lot of my classes were hardware classes. So it was mostly C programming, C sharp. So I took a little bit of Java. So probably one class, maybe 1.5, where you just do some Java on some code. But majority of it was C. I learned a lot of C. So then I applied to a lot of places, got no job offers, no callbacks. But luckily, I was already an intern at SAIC, and they gave me a job in Fort Knox, Kentucky. And my job, guess what it was? It was a Java developer. The
Wow.
one course I took in 4 years. If I knew I was going to be a Java developer, I would spend those 4 years learning Java. I would spend those 4 years mastering Java. So I would have came in as a senior in those 4 years instead of coming as a junior. So there's so many little hacks you can do if I knew directly what I wanted to do with my degree. The disadvantage was that I didn't really know what I wanted to do with my degree yet, or even what I wanted to do with my career at that time. So I was kind of like playing it, kind of seeing what I liked. And unfortunately, what hired me was the thing I didn't like. But it was like, like you said, you have to, provide for your family. You have to have a roof over your head. So of course, I took the job. It was a great experience because going through the job, I learned about Security Plus, learned about cybersecurity, and was able to switch over. So I'm definitely fortunate for that experience. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Colleges don't really tell you enough about the real world because they are not unexposed to it. Because if they never had a government IT job, they wouldn't know about this regulation. So it's going to be really anecdotal to your professor when they're teaching you about the real world on what to expect. So unless you're talking to someone who's been in the service, because like I said, I was the first to ever graduate from that cyber warfare course as a reservist. So no one up to my point has had that experience of getting certification through the military and then providing it as a service to soldiers to show them like these are really what you want to use your benefits for that you're already allotted. So a lot of it is still new. We're still working on new terrain. But so far, it's been a great experience, and I'm really glad of the impact that we've made. For the first 3 months of being partnered with ISACA, we've had over 90 soldiers get exam vouchers from us, which is a crazy story because when I was deployed last year in the Middle East, and I was trying to get an exam voucher for CISM certification, and I put in my request, and it was denied because they say you didn't have a CSSP certification. Why would you need a CISM? And I'm like, wait, I can partner with CI, I can partner with ISACA, and then create as a service and make it available to soldiers. So instead of the CISM, I added the CISA, all the ISACA certifications, made it available to soldiers, and I also included exam vouchers as an a la carte service. and it blew up after 3 months. So what I thought was my personal anecdotal, hardship, was being faced by a lot of other soldiers, and one of them being my battalion commander in my unit. I was like, wait, I know this guy. I was like, wait, sir, how's it going? Like, yeah. And he also had the same issue. He was also trying to get the certification voucher, but he couldn't get it. So it's been experienced up to the highest level of the military, but no one talks about it. So being able to see these like little niche problems that we can fix in the military, really helps out, our brothers and sisters in arms, and really helps, helps their education, helps them learn more, keep progressing, and helps them kind of stay in, because they're also, again, a reward for staying in. They're investing in their personal career as well. That's the advantage of being a reservist, because here the military is giving you money to take certification exams that also benefit your civilian career. So it makes you want to stay with the military a little longer. So everybody really benefits by adding those opportunities in the program.
Absolutely. And it's pretty smart of you and not easy of you to speak up and take an initiative for a problem that you recognized you had yourself. Because a lot of people will face some sort of hardship or some sort of problem, and then it's hard for them to communicate that outwards, because it's sometimes people think of it as like, am I not competent enough to handle this problem? Am I an imposter? But it's like, no, this is a problem. And if you communicate that, you found that there were many other people that were facing the same problem, and actually Cyber Brain Academy was able to take advantage, or maybe not even that, but assist your clients in progressing their career, and that's just good business.
Absolutely. Yeah, you hit it right there. And honestly, an advantage of that, how I was able to do that was being one of the pioneers of cybersecurity for the military, because being the first graduate for National Guard and being able to really see the branch stand up is the first time in 33 years we've ever had a new branch in the military. So being able to see the inception of a new branch and then being like one of the leaders, being at the tip of the spear, I feel as though it's a responsibility, because who else would do this? If you don't do it now, you have to wait, until the next group graduates, and it's a year-long process to get one person through. So if you do it now, you can have a bigger impact on future generations. So absolutely right. Like the sooner we do it, the more impact I can have. Because if I want to do it 5 years from now, that's 5 years of graduating cybersecurity officers that could have used this program to advance their knowledge, like learn like Pentest Plus, for example, or Certified Ethical Hacker, or just kind of branch out and learn more about cybersecurity to better their craft. So the military also benefits. So there's years of the service that I'm doing by not really kind of going for it now, and kind of going all out there and taking that risk on.
Absolutely. And hopefully some of those students can fill, this pretty serious employment gap that the entire, industry is facing.
Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, it's the biggest issue with me is the theft, right? I think it was during not ransomware, like during the biggest ransomware attack we had with WannaCry. I think it was like 3% of the global GDP was attributed to WannaCry. So you're talking about, I think like I'm gonna guess like $70 billion, maybe, probably more than that, but something in the way billions was lost. And in reality, this is the exact same concept of a real bank robbery. Somebody robs a bank and steals $5 billion out of it. You will be alarmed. But yeah, hackers do this on a daily, if not monthly basis, and it's kind of the norm. And when we have a global GDP shortage of theft, the money's coming out of families, coming out of normal people. It's not coming out of billionaires. It's coming out of people who just want to use their computers to check their homework or to submit their papers, send an email. Now they have ransomware. Now they have to pay $200 to go back to the computer. Those are the people who are really being victimized by these hackers. So in reality, the more people we can get to really fill these roles, the more we're protecting the local people like me having a small business. If I get hacked, it's going to cost me a lot of money if compared to Apple and Microsoft. So, and the hackers know that. The hackers go for small and medium-sized businesses a lot. So the more we can get, the more people we can get to really fill these roles, the more we protect more the little people who they're really targeting, because they test out a lot of their big hacks on smaller companies, because they know that they don't have the big protection. They don't have the big protection to really like push them off, and they're gonna pay because they know that they can't defend against them again. They can't, defend against them by employing a red team to do analysis. If hacker says we're in your box like 15 different ways, we're in there pretty deep, we have rootkit capabilities, kernel level access, there's not much you can do. You have to kind of believe them, because you can't employ, a big, real team to kind of do your thing. You say, all right, well, here's the money, please leave me alone. And you kind of pray that they don't come back. So, it's unfortunate that, we lose so much money, but we look at it as like when the big companies get hacked, it makes the news. But we don't see the other medium-sized companies are also losing the same amount of money, but they can't afford the big lawyers, they can't afford the big insurance to recover it. They're going out of business. And with COVID-19, we saw a spike of 40% increase overall in cyber attacks. They're targeting businesses, like small, medium-sized businesses who are trying to make ends meet. And all those guys go out of business. They get cyber attacked. They're already worried about everything else with COVID-19. And now that's worried about a cyber attack. It's not fair compared to, companies who can afford to take that kind of risk on and keep going operationally like normal. So yeah, it's a really unfortunate event when I see a cyber attack, because, when you hear of 100 million people lost their identity, there's 100 million students, no more people just trying to go about their day, just victims, and it's unfortunate. And it costs a lot of money. For example, when the DoD got hacked, it was like 2011 or 2010, they spent $2 billion just on envelopes to send you notifications saying, hey, your identity was most likely stolen. $2 billion just for the envelopes to say you've been notified, just to notify people of being hacked. So that's taxpayer money. That's out of my pocket, your pocket. So these hacks do have kinetic effects on our lifestyle.
Absolutely. And those big companies like Apple and Google, one, they're tech companies. They're the best tech companies in the world, and they have arsenals of IT personnel to help patch up any sort of issues that arise. And they have an arsenal of smart, technically savvy people, but there are so many businesses that have nothing to do with technology, and the pervasiveness of technology enters every industry. And that's why, even if you're going to be a CEO of, say, a textile company or a company that produces toys or sells wood, it's cybersecurity is going to be something that is going to take over everyone's life, because it's cyber is the most, cyber and networking are the most efficient way of doing business. And with that comes malicious actors, instead of those physical bank robbers, now that a lot of the money is being moved through the internet and through digital platforms, that's where the bank robbers are going to go. And it might be even easier for them to hide now.
Absolutely. And with cryptocurrency, it's a lot easier. It's a lot easier for them to pay each other, for them to hide from each other, not to touch each other, so they can stay anonymous and then still be part of a criminal gang organization. And then also creates, these networks of criminal activity. For example, the ransomware as a service business, where, for a few $100,000, you can buy a really good 0-day and use it, and sort of test it, they've verified it, it's good to go. And anybody, the highest bidder, can buy it. That's the market that's created from this, process of being able to mask who you really are online. Unfortunately, yeah.
Unfortunately. So you mentioned that you were the primary or the tip of the spear for the Army in cyber warfare training, correct?
Not for training, but I was the first to go through a lot of the training, I suppose, but more of like well, when we say training, I mean like the Army training, not like the actual certification training. But yeah, like so it's a cyber basic officer leadership course. So it's really how to be a leader in cyber operations for the Army. We've also, like, part of that course was the Joint Advanced Cyber Warfare course. A lot of certification courses. C programming was a course. It's a few weeks of leadership training that we do. But I've also been in Korea. I was a defensive cyber operations chief for an operation in Korea. I was also the ISSM, the Information System Security Manager in Kuwait for 9 months at my deployment. which is pretty interesting because I have a very unique experience because I'm the only one to ever do that job during COVID-19.
Which
So
job?
being the ISSM, being the
In
information
Kuwait?
security manager, yeah, it was a very cool experience because you get to see, you know, really how well incident response works in real life.
How
And
what
being
works in real life?
incident response, like when you put like the RRP, you know, the incident response plan, and you know they have that plan, but it really makes Mike Tyson's quote really make a lot of sense and really resonate, where he says that everyone has a plan until you get punched in the face. And that's really where your IRP goes. You know, you have this plan for instant response, and then when an incident happened, like a pandemic, you know, how well was it updated last? You know, like how well did you really go in depth with what to do? How well did you notify other key personnel, other key organizations? You know, you really get to really test out how prepared you are. And what we've seen is that it costs a lot of money to not be prepared. Small businesses got hit by not being prepared. Medium-sized businesses got hit by not being prepared. Even large businesses lost billions of dollars by not being prepared for teleworking. And hackers, you know, they took advantage of it. We saw a spike during the onset of teleworking because there's so many more now IP addresses now online. So more, you know, it's a big landscape. So more likely you get hacked. So, and then also too, more people are hacking because when you hear about a $71 million hack, and anyone can pick a computer up and learn this stuff, you kind of want to go to that industry. So you're gonna see more of these like novice hackers, these script kiddies who can watch a YouTube video and hack a small business and still make money off it, and they feel good about it because you know that's money in their pocket. But then we forget about like you know just the ethical concept of you know robbing someone. You might as well like to me, I look at it as like you know still if you look at cyber crimes in the same light as physical crimes, we will take it a little bit more seriously. You know, someone walked up to you and stole your wallet. That's equivalent to someone you know stealing your identity online. You feel a certain type of way about it. It's not just a certain phone call like, "Hey, your identity was stolen." You're like, "No, like all my stuff back. I'll find out who it was." You know, take a little bit more of like forever with people when they get an email saying, "Hey, sorry, your identity was stolen. This is what we're gonna do. Here's our insurance protection." It's like, no, where was it stolen at? You want to know who it was. If it was a physical robbery, you know, so we have to ask the same kind of questions digitally to hold them accountable. Because when you give your identity online, you're literally giving someone your ID card. When you go to a bouncer and you give your ID card, you trust he's gonna give it back to you in the same light. You don't trust he's gonna like, you know, make a copy of it somewhere and then misplace it. So when it does get lost, you say, "Wait, I thought I could trust you with my ID. You know, how did it get stolen? Okay, now I want to know where it is. You know, if it's a physical ID, but online, our online identity, we've gone so desensitized to online theft and identity theft that we see cybercrime. It's like, oh, this company got hacked. Oh, that sucks, and we kind of move on. But in reality, if someone walked in there, you know, with a gun and a mask, and walked out with $5 million, that would be breaking news for a few weeks. You know, but with cybersecurity, just not that like it's not the approach of okay, let's take this seriously because it's online, it's not real, right? But in real, but if this happened in real life, if no one died, it would be the exact same scenario. Same amount of money is lost, and most money is now digital, so it's the exact same as a regular bank robbery nowadays.
Absolutely. And I think in social media, we've seen a different form of this online sort of desensitivity where, you know, there were a few years, it still happens, I think, where people on social media say these terrible things to each other in the commenting section. And these are things that you don't, you know, I just remember reading them and kind of being told, like hearing, like people probably wouldn't say this in person if, you know, they had to speak to that person's face. And they probably wouldn't say it this harshly or be, you know, so passionate. That could also be applied to cyber theft, where it's if this person had to do it in real life, they probably wouldn't do it. But now that they can hide behind a computer,
Yeah,
they they are more likely to do it because they think they won't be seen, or they kind of have this sort of, you know, safeguard of physical, you know, this physical safeguard where they're more willing to take that risk. So we should actually be prepared for more thieves and more malicious people than ever, because there's a sort of desensitivity towards this sort of theft than a physical theft.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that'll bring light to a lot of cybersecurity issues because now we can kind of come at it with the light of now we need more cops, we need more people to protect us from these bad guys in real life. So if there's a cop crisis, we'll hear about it on the news, we'll hear about it more publicly. But here we are with a 3.5 million job shortage or job surplus. I'm sorry, a job surplus. We kind of find people to fill in these 6-figure roles, and that's not making the news because that's not important enough. But there's those people are gonna really do a lot of the same protection you will expect in real life, like protecting you from identity theft, protecting you from your computer being stolen, from your from your computer being damaged, from you losing thousands of dollars because because your computer had ransomware, now someone stole your password, but because you didn't have enough cybersecurity knowledge or acumen, because you didn't really learn more about cybersecurity. But here we are, we learn about like basics of how to protect yourself, right? Like protect yourself, how to go by day, but we don't really put the cybersecurity in that. But you are so vulnerable online. But we're not really teaching you how to protect yourself online. And it's crazy because there's so many little ways that you can really improve your cyber hygiene. For example, I taught the Girl Scouts a few years ago, and one of the things I taught was how to make a strong password. Pick your favorite color, your favorite number, and your favorite actor. You put them all together. That's your strong password. You're less likely to guess one of those three, all three together in the same sequence. So something like that can really protect you from getting your credit card information stolen. So just sprinkle that on to like a high school classroom or someone like make that a normal key life knowledge that you learn before you're 18, and that will save you, probably like 1% chance less likely from getting your computer stolen. And maybe when it does happen, you know what to do. You have your files backed up. You know how to back up your files. So when let's say a ransomware attack does happen, you can back up till yesterday before you got infected, and then get the update. So there's so many ways that will save you so much money and time. So companies are now learning that, after millions of dollars, in damages. But we, as a commercial, we as a commercial market can win that on a day-by-day basis. And also when we learn that from a day-by-day basis, when we go into these companies, now we're bringing in this cybersecurity acumen that's going to protect the companies that we're going into. So instead of relying on the companies to train us up on cybersecurity hygiene, cybersecurity concepts, if we come in with that knowledge, we're gonna learn it for the second time, third time, but it's gonna be ingrained in us. So when we leave the company, when we go back to our homes, we can apply it to our homes as well. It won't be as though it's just a quick employee training. Like, this is a live training that I've learned. It's like how to drive a car. You go to driving school for it, but you apply it every day. So to me, that's exactly how I want cybersecurity to be, where you apply it every day in your life.
Absolutely. And I don't think people realize that. And another thing that you highlighted, that's not very obvious to non-engineers, non-IT folks, is that a lot of the most say, a lot of the a lot of the processes that you can do for cyber hygiene are not that technically advanced. And I think that stops people. They think, oh, I need to be a pro hacker in order to defend myself, so I'm not even going to try. And it's like, no, there are very obvious things. Don't use the same password for different accounts.
Right.
It's not, you don't have to be a master coder or an engineer to keep good cyber hygiene. You just kind of have to be informed. And I think another thing that you highlighted that also isn't very obvious to people, especially to non-IT, non-computer people, is that this isn't something you do just for your job. Yes, it is good for your job, but you don't want to wake up one day and have negative $10,000 in your bank account.
Yep. And so here's the thing about that, right? Here's where cybersecurity gets really important. All right. So you made a really good point about it. So I'm gonna take the 10 grand example. All right. So I work in a help desk in Kansas, for example. Right. So you call me and you say, "Hey, Victor, someone stole 10 grand from me." And I say, "Okay, let me verify who you are. I'm gonna ask you for your social security number, your mother's maiden name, your address, your zip code, any kind of personal information I can find from you to verify who you are." Because in reality, I have no idea who you are. So you've checked all the boxes. Now I trust you, and now you can change your password. You can update your address. You can do whatever you want. You're in your account. So I don't know who you are. But you've checked. To me, I've done my part in verifying your identity, right? So then, I'm sorry. So let's say that's what I see from my end. Then you call you call Victor Bank. Hey, Victor Bank. I can't find $10,000 for my account. I'm like, yeah, you just took it out. You just took a withdrawal. No, I didn't. That was somebody else. Wait, who are you? I'm like, I'm Bob. No, Bob, like you just took out $10,000. Like, I just talked to you, Bob. Bob had the social security number, the zip code. He had everything checked. Like, who are like now? I'm suspicious that you're the hacker because Bob, me, and the previous guys had a great conversation. He's laughing like, oh my, how's your day going? Like personable. Hey, I had such a great time. I'll give you a great review. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day. Now somebody else calls you pissed off saying, hey, where's my money at? It's like, no, dude, like, I don't know who you are. Like, no, then get, here's the tricky part, right? Hey, sir, give me your home address. Here's my address. No, your zip code, right? And, okay, so, okay, I'll go through that. I'll go through that scenario as if I'm the same person, and I'm gonna tell you how it's even worse when it's a different person, right? So, I'm me, right? I'm the previous person. The previous person changes your zip code, changes your information, because he's had a great conversation with the previous person. He thinks he's Bob, right? Change Bob's information. Now, real Bob calls. He can't answer his own mother's maiden name. Now, who's the real Bob? To the strange, let's say you call back, is a different person. Different person answers, doesn't know that he's had the fake guy just changed all his guy's information. And then actually someone else that can't answer the information is like, sir, I can't give you any access to your account. I legally can't. You don't know your mom's maiden name. Like, nice try, hacker. I hope it's being recorded because I'm doing my job. I'm literally doing my job. Right, but to you, you're like, no, like this is me. Like, what is going on? And then you think in your head, like, is that the right zip code? And you're changing your zip code. But meanwhile, the first guy went straight to it. Like, oh, here's the zip code. You're like, wait, is that the right one? I could have changed. Like, now you're questioning yourself. It's for a stranger. If you put it from a strange perspective, from a stranger who has no idea who the real person is, it is so dangerous. And the issue is that the bank would not give you 10 grand back because you can't prove that you are who you are. And how can they prove that wasn't you before? And how can they prove that wasn't your buddy calling to take 10 grand? Either way, that's a big risk for them to trust you on without, having some kind of, valid way to prove that was not staged, that was a legitimate hack. And the biggest issue is attribution, because that phone number is obviously going to be maxed, right, 3 levels down, through a onion proxy that switches IP addresses every 10 seconds through different hops throughout the world. You would never find that person. So that person took out $10,000 from your account that you would never get back, all because he called and got your information because he had your ID from walking by you and taking from your pocket. Because physically that's the ramifications of someone taking your identity in real life. They can do that to you, and you will understand. Yeah, I watched him take my wallet, but in the online world, you put your bank account information in all the time, not seeing if it's encrypted, and then when it happens to us in real life, it doesn't happen to us to $100 that we had in a bank account. It's not cash. Your wallet's actually more secure because it's only $100 in your wallet. You're talking about like your entire life savings. So the impact is so much greater. And yeah, we have a surplus of openings for people to protect us from that occurring. So it's a huge problem if you think about it. It's not just some petty thefts anymore. This is thousands of dollars that you can never recover. You can't even call the bank and say you are who you are. That money's gone. So the impact of not protecting, and that can all happen by not having a secure password, or using or being on a public Wi-Fi. There's so many different ways that one time you just turn your guard down, didn't use a VPN. That's the one time they got into your account, took your password, got into your account, locked you out of your own account, took your information out, went to the ATM, changed your PIN. Like it all can happen within a few days. Here you are figuring out what's going on. That's a bigger impact than losing your wallet. When you lose your wallet, you just lock all your cards and get a new license. Within a few weeks, you're good. But this will take you years to recover from. So it's a huge problem for me. And that's why I'm so passionate about it, because, for someone who, came from nothing, came from a village, who's seen hard work and seen, like I still remember, if someone gave me $5 at church after walking a mile to church with my family. So you remember every act of kindness that someone ever done for you. So being poor, you really appreciate money because it was how you fed, how you got dinner. growing up in Nigeria, it was hard. You have to pay for water. So if you don't have money, you're gonna die. So when someone has a little bit of money and it's stolen from them, and it's not someone who has a surplus of money, you're stealing from a single mother raising her two kids. So to me, it does hit me a little bit harder because I know struggling growing up that like I wouldn't feel right knowing that I did that to somebody, because it's not fair because you don't ask for these positions. You don't ask to be born in poverty. You don't ask to be given hardships, but here you are just doing your best, giving all your hope, and that hacker could have taken all the hope you have. That hacker could have taken all the money out of your savings. That could have destroyed every little hope you had. Hope for you and your kids. But that hacker has no idea what he or she just did. And to me, it's like, it's an ethical problem. We as human beings have to really come together and say, this is not right. Like, we understand that you have the skills, you can do it. But think about it, like, if you could see the person you're robbing from, if you could see the families that you're stealing these billions of dollars from, it will hit you a little bit harder. You won't walk around stealing wallets if you can really see the families you're taking the money from. And that's why it hits me a little bit harder because, I came from, I grew up poor. So to see that poor people are impacted by this, it does kind of hit me a little bit harder. So if I can train them on how to protect themselves, they can keep that money for themselves, for their families, and they can grow and, grow into wherever they want to be. And yeah, sorry, I got a little passionate there, but yeah, it's not fair when these hackers are stealing money. It's not just, and then the big impact too. People think about like, when a hack happens to a big company, well, the company loses a lot of money. The money comes from somewhere. It comes from employees. That's who lose employees. Not people losing jobs because of your greediness, because you want to test out your hack. You want to make a scene, or you want to get some money or get some attention. Someone lost their job. Some poor family lost their job because of your action. Was it really worth it? It's like, being on the other end of that, it's just no way it's worth it. It's not. It's never gonna be worth it.
No, it's not. And unfortunately, there will probably always be people who don't recognize that it's not worth it and who will take advantage of those other more vulnerable people because, again, like you said, they can do it and they don't really have to see it. They can bankrupt a family, they can bankrupt or hurt a company so much that they have to cut off some of the, employees that really need that job.
Exactly.
And they're going to do that, and really the only thing we can do, or small businesses can do, or even people who need more money to do, is attempt to make themselves less vulnerable. And I think institutions like Cyber Brain Academy assist in doing that for a couple reasons. One, like we've stated, they will give an education that will directly result in employment. Education that is a lot cheaper than formal education, which is, we're kind of taught go to a 4-year university and at the end of that, where you'll have a job. Well, you and I were lucky enough to have engineering degrees where we were able to at least be entrusted with some form of employment because we proved, we have engineering skill. That degree was 4 years long and didn't give us the technical skills we needed and actually were required to have. So for a lot of people, it's not affordable. And institutions like Cyber Brain Academy will give them those tools to find employment sooner than a 4-year formal institution could, and will also, these skills, these cyber hygienic skills, they are, like we said, they're just important to have for the layman, for any person who wants to be a part of society today. You have to realize we hold a cyber profile, and that cyber profile is social, financial, professional. I mean, it really ranges across the entire spectrum of what we are with to our community.
Absolutely, and you hit it right there. It's the community. We start small. Here in San Diego, I've given classes to the Navy. I've been fortunate enough to be part of Third Fleet's training as a resource. So I've given Security Plus classes to sailors, and the advantage of that is that the sailors I talk to are about my age. They're about late 20s, early 30s, and it's really great because me as a civilian, I get to tell them what the real world's like. But being the same age, but me having the parallel viewpoint of being a military officer, but also being a full-time engineer working for Deloitte. And I remember telling them, like, man, you guys want to pass Security Plus because of my experience. Because of when I graduated from college, I know about these jobs. I know about these opportunities that require Security Plus. I know about the DoD 8140. And I was able to stress it from a personal experience in a way that resonates to the youth. Because, here's someone who's telling you, saying like, man, like a few years ago, I'm glad I got a certification. And I'm teaching you this stuff because it helped my career. So I have a personal interest because once a military officer, my job is to, make an impact, is to, obviously, leave the place better than I found it. So as an officer, as leader, they have that intrinsic trust in the military officer teaching them. But as someone who's, has a certification, authorized to teach the certification, and also, very knowledgeable in the field, I get to give them the education format of a very structured approach, like a, very like, I teach exactly from the CompTIA format so they can get it directly for the exam. But I also give them the real world knowledge of a military example that they don't really get from most instructors, of saying, like, instead of like when we talk about two-factor authentication, for example, I can put my smart card out and say, you guys have all this in your back pocket. This is exactly what it says. This is your private key. It's how you encrypt your emails. And all my examples can really resonate because I've been in the military for about 12 years now. So it's about 12 years of experience that I can really hit them on and relate to cyber. So as an instructor, I have an advantage by really focusing on the military, especially here in San Diego, where it's such a huge Navy presence. And we start locally and help the community here, because as sailors come and get stationed here, they can get cybersecurity skills and then go out wherever they want to go and then make an impact where they go. And it all starts locally, but you can really make a big impact around the world by really focusing on where you are. And that's what I've been really doing here in San Diego. So sorry, I just want to go off on what you said.
No, absolutely. Thank you for sharing. And it's important. I mean, cyber, like we noted at the beginning, it's a global phenomenon, but still our local community matters. And, just it, it's it translates across the world, even if you want to be right at home or you want to speak to someone in Nigeria or Korea or anywhere else in the world. Cyber hygiene is is important today and is only going to become much more important moving forward.
Absolutely. And my philosophy is that if anything connects to the internet, it needs to be protected. And the reason why cybersecurity has this huge influx in popularity with businesses is largely based on the fact that businesses now more than ever rely on IT. They need computers. There's no cash register you can have out there that isn't connected to some bigger network. ATM machines are hooked up to IP to have as that is IP capable. So anything that is routable on the internet has to be protected, because you are exposed to hackers, you're exposed to vulnerabilities, you're exposed to threats as equally as anybody else that's connected that has an IP address in the same network. So now more than ever, we're having so many new IT connected systems, and largely the biggest hit, and unfortunately, is the healthcare industry, because a lot of these IT components are healthcare equipment, and these aren't always built with security in mind. And what we've seen is hackers go after these. For example, with WannaCry, the biggest hit for WannaCry, the biggest ransomware attack in the world, was healthcare. They targeted hospitals because a lot of hospitals don't have the funds to really upgrade their IT equipment, because the number one priority is saving lives. Technology gets a backseat a lot of times. So now they're losing millions of dollars because hackers give them ransomware attacks saying, pay X 100K and we'll unlock your medical device that lets you know if your patient is allergic to this medication you're about to give them. So now you have an advantage as a hacker, because if you hack a business, it's all about money. It's like, hey, give us money. It's like how much money? Like, is this money that you're demanding worth the impact of not doing it? That's all. That's only the thing you're weighing. It's the only two factors. But when you bring in healthcare involved, you're now looking at it in scope of, okay, now I have the money he wants, but I also have this patient's life. It's not just data anymore. is the data can be this medication is life-threatening, it's allergic, and there's more. It's not. It's and when hackers get information, it's not just we have it. Here's a bag. It's also we have it. We can now disclose it. Now your hospital is not in violation of HIPAA. So now you know for sure you have to pay a fine for that. That's gonna be public. Who's gonna trust your hospital? And your competitor gets an advantage for how many years they get an advantage for. You have this huge, bigger issue that arises from a ransomware attack that you have to go process through your head. And this is the thing about ransomware is that people think it's like a quick, you get a screen, you pay, you move on. There's a lot of different types of ransomware attacks, and there's some, and this is really why this is probably I'm not sure exactly how popular this is yet, or I hope it doesn't get any more popular. But they'll delete your files every minute that you don't pay to put more pressure on you. So here you are fighting all this in your head. Like you have to get, by the time you get your manager, you've already lost 10% of your files. And do you really lose it, or is it gonna be, out on WikiLeaks tomorrow? So there's that. You're always thinking about that. So it's so much pressure. It's unworthy to just like to think that you're gonna be planned for it. Because when it happens to you and you're walking into your day about to do some surgery and boom, here is like the screen of death saying pay or we'll release all your healthcare information about all your patients, all your employee salaries, their social, all this stuff, and we'll release 10% every hour. It's like what? And you're starting your day like that, 6 a.m. It's like because they want to hit you when you're most uncomfortable, because they want a lot of emotions out of you, because they want you to act off emotion, and emotion is gonna be fear. Fear of loss, fear of damages, and it's gonna be a quick reaction, and it's gonna make them a lot of money. Ransomware attacks are so popular; people make millions in a few hours because of how much emotion they can get out of the target.
Absolutely. I don't know if anyone, I've been cyber attacked, or, even this suspicion of being cyber attacked is very distressing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what it is about, I think it's because we feel so powerless, because all we can do is look behind a screen and see something terrible happening, and we have no power in that moment to stop it, and it's very distressing.
Absolutely, and that's exactly how I feel. If you think about it, a few years ago, when I was starting my company, I got cyber attacked. I was on my back end. I was designing my website, and I went to my admin portal, and I saw 3 admins. I'm like, wait, I should be the only admin. And I'm like, oh crap, they got into my back end. So I had to delete the users, change my password, go back to an earlier copy, and hope that was enough. But yeah, it is disturbing because it was probably like 2 in the morning. It was 2 in the morning. I was up late coding, and luckily I was up when they were there, because they could have kicked me off my admin account. Yes. And now they're the admins. They own my entire website. They can do it. They can deface it, do whatever they want with it, all because I wasn't there to kick them off at the right time. So you're right. It's like that 2 in the morning on a Saturday was when they'll go for you, because they know you're gonna be asleep or out or something. So they find when you're most vulnerable. That's why most cyber attacks happen during the holidays. They really find the times where you're not gonna be there. You don't have your full IT staff there. That's when they're gonna really hit you. Also during like key events like political elections, Olympics, because all your security is gonna be focused on one area, and that's gonna really dilute a lot of the other areas that they'll go after. So they know exactly what they're doing. So it's really strategy, and that's what I like about being in the military is the cyber warfare aspect, where we can go into analyzing the adversary, where it's not just you got hacked. Okay, why did they target you? How far did they get? Are they still there? You can ask these kind of questions, where it's not like the public just gets, oh, this company got hacked, and then here you're gonna get like $10,000 of coverage for the next X amount of years. It's like, no, like why were they targeted? Who targeted them? How long were they in for? Like what's next? Like these are follow-on questions that we don't publicly ask these companies. These are questions asked more in private, but we don't get the answers. But here we're the ones that get impacted by this. We're the ones that lose our money. Meanwhile, the company stays afloat. So we should we hold more accountability to these companies and let them know that when identity theft does happen, we want to know what you're doing about it. So we can trust you again, if we want to trust you again, because there's so many other vendors out there, for e-commerce, that why would you trust someone that misuses your information? And companies should have a real threat about that. Because if someone is to go publicly online and say, I put my credit card information in this website and then lost $400 on my bank account, and the company does nothing about it, well, we as the public need to stand back and say, okay, well, let's look at why aren't you doing something about that? That's a problem, because we're trusting you with our money. It's a contractual, agreement that we go into. When I give you my money for a service, that's all I want is a service. I'm not agreeing to have my information stolen overseas. I'm also agreeing that I hope that you have enough cybersecurity to protect my information. When I give it to you. These are kind of basic stuff that you should expect from people when you give them your credit card information, because you're the one that gets impacted. If someone steals your identity, the company's safe. You're the one that loses money. So yeah.
Yes, it is. That's why, we as individuals, have to be aware of this and have to take advantages of things of Cyber Brain Academy, not just because we want a good job and because we want to provide for our families and be a part of the community, but because we can get seriously hurt. We can have our, maybe, not physically, but we can have tremendous hardship brought on us financially or even socially because of not having proper cyber hygiene and not understanding some basic security concepts. If we're part of a company, we could make our company very vulnerable. So if we are professionals, we definitely need to be aware of that. But even again, like we're highlighting, companies have a responsibility. I think if they're not able to maintain proper cyber hygiene, they're going to lose a lot of business and a lot of money. So it's in their best interest to have these processes secure. And for the individual, it's the same issue. We have social reputations and our finances all online, and those are very delicate. And hackers are working towards dismantling that and somehow profiting off of it.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that's gonna be the market. And unfortunately, it's only going up. We're going to see more cyber attacks, more money lost every year. Every year it rises every year. How many billions of dollars we lose every year, and now we're going to cryptocurrency now. We're going to see another market is going to be impacted by cyber attacks. So now more than ever, if we want to advance in technology and innovate, we have to first deal with the problem, which is cyber attacks that are really keeping us from seeing the growth of technology, because people are going to be less likely to invest in technology that's insecure. So once we handle the security, we can focus on the innovation and more of the functionalities that we're looking for in technology without also have to worry about how can this be used against us.
Absolutely. Victor, thank you for coming on. Is there anywhere people should go or any sort of way they can connect with you and Cyber Brain Academy?
Yeah, absolutely. So the website is cyber-brainacademy.com. We're also very active on LinkedIn, very active on Instagram and Facebook as well. So definitely follow us on LinkedIn, follow us on Instagram or Facebook. We're also on Instagram. We post daily topics on cybersecurity. So we teach cybersecurity knowledge like backdoor, routers, switches, access control lists, very basic topics on a daily basis. And also remind soldiers that they're eligible for $4,000 of our training for free every year. So that's the advantages of following us on Instagram. But you can follow me personally too. I'm always active on LinkedIn, Victor Nzeata, and also on social media, cyber.ceo is my handle on Instagram.
My guest today has been Victor Nzeata. Thanks for coming on the podcast, Victor.
Thanks for having me. Anytime.